You can open up a browser of your choice and then navigate to www.digitalocean.com. That's the homepage for DigitalOcean. According to DigitalOcean, it's nothing but a cloud computing platform which is designed for developers. Also, I like the fact what they list here when you go to the help section. What is DigitalOcean? Well, it's nothing but a cloud infrastructure provider focused on simplifying web infrastructure for software developers. Some of the key advantages they list out are: this is an SSD only cloud, meaning any servers that you create, they give you a high performance solid state disks. The simple control panel is really simple, and they seem to have gotten the KISS philosophy very well. They have kept it very minimal, very simple, and then I like the fact that it's meant for the developers. You get a hosting starting at $5 USD per month. They have a very good active developer community. You get all the Linux distributions you can think of, and also there are one-click installations as they call it. So overall, DigitalOcean is a cloud which is truly meant for developers. Now that we know what is DigitalOcean, probably it's time to understand what is ASP .NET Core. If you never heard about ASP .NET Core, let me take a minute to give you a heads up on what is ASP .NET Core. Open up a browser of your choice and then navigate to www.dot.net. So it's dot.net. So this is the homepage for understanding the .NET related workloads, as we call it. Just scrolls a little bit down and then you will see different workloads coming up here. So Windows development, cross-platform server apps, mobile apps on any device. We are interested in cross-platform server apps. Click on it and then this is the homepage for welcome the .NET Core, as we call it. As you can see, .NET Core is a blazing fast, lightweight and modular pro platform for creating web applications and services that run on Windows, Linux and Mac. It's cross-platform, meaning you can create .NET Core apps that run on Windows, Linux and Mac. It's unified because it leverages the unified .NET standard library so that we can target all the platforms with the same code and use the same languages and tools and reuse your skills. It is fast because the high performance server runtime for Windows Server and Linux makes the .NET Core 8 times faster than Node.js and 3 times faster than Go. That means that applications provide better response times and requires less compute power. It is lightweight, meaning you do not get impacted in the deployment as well as it's a modular development model, so you can take dependencies on the minimal set of packages that you need. It is modern because you can use multiple languages that you know of, for example C# or VB or F#. You can use generics, you can use language integrated query, async support and many more. The biggest thing for me is ASP.NET Core, or the .NET Core, is open source. The runtime, the library, the compiler, the language, tools are all open source on GitHub. You can contribute, the contributions are accepted, it will be tested and then fully supported. So this, in a nutshell, is ASP.NET Core. Now that we understand what is DigitalOcean and ASP.NET Core, let's deep dive into creating what they call as droplets in DigitalOcean. In order to get started with DigitalOcean, you will need to create an account at DigitalOcean. I've already created my account, so I'm going to just click on login and then I'm going to log in with my credentials. When you first time get inside the control panel, as we call it in DigitalOcean, this is what you get. Yes, it's very simple, it's very minimal, and keep in mind that DigitalOcean is meant for developers. It's a cloud platform built for developers, software developers. The concept of DigitalOcean is known as droplets. So basically the virtual machines that you want to create are called as droplets in DigitalOcean. As you can see here, this is a blank slate that I have. I do not have any droplets or any virtual machines. In order to create a virtual machine, you can either create on this green button or this blue button here, whichever you want to click. So I'm going to click on create droplet. As you can see here, it's doing certain things in the background and then it's going to take me to the create droplets interface. In order to use or to create an image, you will have to first pick up your distribution, the Linux distribution. As you can see, they support pretty much all the flavors that you can think of: Ubuntu, FreeBSD, Fedora, Debian, CoreOS, and then CentOS. Now I'm not going to pick any of these things. Rather, I'm going to go jump directly to what they call as one-click apps. When I click on one-click apps, it's going to list down a series of VM images, or the Droplet images, that I can make use of. As you can see here, the first one, it says .NET Core with PowerShell on Ubuntu 16.04. Well, that is what I'm looking for. I need a Ubuntu-based virtual machine with .NET Core already installed on it. Instead of me handcrafting everything, I have the VM, or I have the Droplet, which has everything pre-installed. So I'm going to pick up the .NET Core with PowerShell on 16.04 image. Then we need to pick up a size. For this demo, I'm going to pick a $5 a month image, which provides me 512 MB RAM with 1 CPU with 20 GB SSD hard disk. As you can see, there's a bunch of other options available. Depending on your requirement, you can choose whichever image you want. They also have a high memory based images available. So if you are a very high workload that you need, you can pick these high memory images. So for now, I'm going to stick with $5 standard image. I'm going to talk about, I'm not going to talk about block storage for now. Next thing that I'm going to pick up is choose a data center region. So this is basically telling DigitalOcean where our VM should be physically located. So I'm from Bangalore, so unfortunately they have a data center right here in Bangalore. So I'm going to pick up Bangalore as my data center for this demo. Some of the additional options: private networking, backups, IPv6, user data. So I'm not going to touch upon for that here now. So SSH keys. So I have followed their tutorial on how to set up or how to create an SSH private and public key, and then how to associate your SSH keys with your DigitalOcean account. So I highly recommend you going through their tutorials, and then they walk you through step by step. So I've already done that, and as you can see, there is an SSH key available. So I'm going to say that I want my virtual machine to have this SSH key so that I can log into my Droplet without username and password. Finally, we'll need to tell how many droplets we need. As you can see, you can go up and down, and I'm just going to select one droplet for now, and then you can choose a host name. You can change this to your own whatever naming that you want to create, but for now I'm going to stick to whatever is default created here. So it's netcore PowerShell 512 MB BLR101. So I'm going to go ahead and then click create. We should be navigated back to the Droplets dashboard. As you can see here, we see that the Droplet is getting created at this moment. It probably takes like 20 seconds or to 30 seconds for the Droplet to be created. As you can see here, it is telling me that the spinning logo says it's creating the Droplet. It's a 512 MB 20 GB hard disk. BLR1 is the data center. It's a Ubuntu .NET Core with PowerShell. And as you can see, the creation is moving at a fast pace. We should give it a couple of more seconds, and then the Droplet will be created. And as you can see, it says the Droplet is created. Probably it didn't even take 20 seconds. What you're seeing here is it has given me the IP address that it belongs to, or the IP address that has been provided for my Droplet, and they say happy coding. So what we can do is now we can click on our Droplet, as you can see here, and then these are some of the additional information that you can see on your Droplet. So as of now, I think the creation is still not yet completed. As you can see, it still says creating. But you can see, like, this graph is all about CPU, disk IO, all the other things about your VM. You can take a look at the access. So they provide you a browser-based console, or you can use any other means such as PuTTY or all those things. The power, it's currently powered down. If you want to power it on or boot, all those things. Volumes is nothing but if you want to add an additional block storage or something like that. You can resize your VM using the resize options here. If you want to add your own private networking, you can do it here. If you want to take a backup or take a look at your backups, you can see it here. The snapshots of your the Droplet, what kernel your droplet has, history regarding your droplet. If you want to destroy, meaning you want to bring down the droplet, you can do it from here. You can tag your droplet, uh, basically group. If you want to group different droplet into one logical group, yeah, you can do it using the tags. So let me come back and then see what happened. It is still creating. Let's give it a couple of more seconds. As we can see now, the droplet has been completely created. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to use the IP address and then connect to it using a PuTTY software. Since I'm on a Windows OS, I'm going to use PuTTY to establish a SSH based connection. So here's the IP address of my droplet. The SSH is usually going to be on 22, and then I've also set up the auto login username. By default, the droplet sudo user is root, and then I've also set up, given my if you take a look at here, my private key, which will be used. Remember, when creating the droplet, it had used my SSH key. So here is my private key. So I'm going to use this information to start a session now. So I'm going to say open, and the PuTTY says that on your laptop the host key is not cached in the registry. Do you want to do it? So I'm going to say yes. And what we are seeing now here is we establishing a SSH connection to our droplet. As you can see here, let me just try to maximize this, and it says PS. So that's because, as I said, this is basically a PowerShell command prompt that we are looking at. It's not the regular Linux terminal. This droplet has PowerShell installed and .NET Core also installed. So I'm at my terminal now. First thing that I want to do is I'm going to check what version of ASP.NET Core or the .NET Core is installed on this droplet. As you can see here, it is actually a pretty old one, 1.0. Preview 3.4056 build. So it's pretty old build. So now next what we're going to do is we're going to remove this old version of the .NET Core and then install the latest version of .NET Core. I'm back at .NET website. So remember, that's the homepage for all the .NET related stuff. I'm going to go to download section here, and here if you see there is .NET Core, and then if you scroll down you will see Linux. So I'm going to click on Linux, and the distribution that I'm looking at is Ubuntu. So I'm going to go into Ubuntu distribution. So we need to set up certain things first. One is the .NET apt-get feed. So I'm going to come back to that. But before that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the previous version of .NET that's there on my droplet. For that, we will need to make use of this script that's provided by Microsoft. So if you see here, I'm going to go to the script, go to raw, copy everything that I see here, and come back to my droplet. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, let's create a directory called as workspace, and I'm going to do a cd into my workspace, and here I'm going to use an editor called as nano, and I'll say open this up, and now I'm going to just paste whatever I had copied. So as you can see here, everything that I copied from the script is here. So I'm going to now write this out to, let's call this as .NET clean.sh, and I'm going to exit this out now. So now if I do an ls, I will see .NET clean.sh. So let's do sh minus x .NET clean.sh. So basically what this is doing is it's going and then removing all the previous versions of .NET Core. Basically we had only one version, which is preview 3. So it is going to do cleanup. As you can see now, the cleanup has been done. So let me do a clear screen. Next, what we'll need to do is we'll need to set up the apt-get feed to get the latest .NET Core package. So let's do that now. Let me go back to the .NET page here, the installation page, and we are looking at Ubuntu 16.04. So I'm going to copy this particular line and come back to the droplet window, And as you can see here, I just pasted it, it ran it fine. So I'm going to copy this guy now, and I'm going to do a paste here, and then okay, so let's try this again now. There we go. So I need to run this, so it is doing something, and then we are finished with these two sections now, or the commands now. So now I need to do a sudo apt get update. So I'm going to do sudo apt get update. Basically what this does is now it's going to go and then start getting any updates that are there, and then we have added two feeds for that. So it's now getting all the packages, and it says reading package list done. Now, the final piece in this puzzle is to install the .NET Core. At this moment of me recording this, the LTS, or the long-term support, is actually for .NET Core 1.0.3. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the current version, meaning this is not a supported, official support is not yet there for this from Microsoft. If you need official support from Microsoft, it will be for .NET Core 1.0.3. But I want to be on the latest and greatest, so I'm going to take this .NET Core 1.1. So in order to do the .NET Core 1.1, you will need to copy this particular command. So I'm going to do this, and let me clear screen. And okay, I'm still having problems with my copy paste, so let me try that again. Copy, no. Okay, so now it should work. So let me do this. There we go. So I'm going to do install. So what this is doing is it's basically going and then getting the .NET Core SDK and installing it onto this Droplet. The .NET Core installation has finished on this Droplet now. As you can see, it has come back to my the root. So I'm going to do a clear screen for now. And now what we can do is we can create a new directory. Let's call it as webapp1, and I'm going to do a cd into webapp1. In order to create a simple ASP.NET MVC core application, we can just use the CLIs. I can say .NET new -t, meaning what type of app that do I need. So basically I'm saying it's .NET web application, ASP.NET core MVC application. So I'm going to do this. And as you can see here, basically the .NET CLI, it's doing a on-demand download of certain things that it needs to run the commands. So it's going to go download, and then as you can see, it's expanding all the things that it has downloaded. 50% done, and then we'll come back. So what this particular command will do is it's going to scaffold a very simple MVC application which contains 3 routes: home, about, and contact. And we can just run it as is without running any code. So that's what the CLI will help us with. So .NET new -t web is basically saying create a new web application for me, or scaffold a new web application for me. As you can see, it says create a new C# project in root workspace web app 1. If I do an ls, as you can see here now, or I can do a dir, as you can see here, it's now showing me the familiar folders that I know of: controllers, models, view, www root. There is a project.json, there is a program.cs, there is a startup.cs. Well, the next piece in the puzzle is to restore. Basically, the .NET Core applications rely on certain packages. In order to get them going, we need to do a .NET restore. So I'm going to say .NET restore now. And as you can see, it's going to go ahead and then start pulling down all the required packages from the feeds, and it should start getting the feed any moment now. There we go. It's installing all the prerequisites that the web application requires onto this machine, and it's logging it out to the console, and any moment we should see the installation being done. It's restoring the packages, it's installing, it's restoring, it's doing all the things that otherwise manually we would have to do it. and we see that the restore has completed. So let me do a clear screen. Now all in order to run this web application, all I need to do is I just need to do .NET run. Right, the moment I do that, it's compiling my project, and it says I'm compiling to .NET Core app version 1.1, and there we go. It says now listening on http localhost 5000. So what has happened is the .NET run command will arbitrarily put 5000 as the port on which this particular web application will be run. But if I go to my browser, so let's see, let me copy this IP, and then now if I do HTTP and then my IP, well, I'm going to get a 404 saying there's nothing, right? That's because the 5000 is not being the typical port that the web application is, or the web protocol is exposed is 80. So HTTP is exposed at 80, but this particular application is running at 5000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this for now, and I will open up the program.cs, and all I need to do is come back here to this particular line where it says use Kestrel, and I'm going to say .use URLs, and I will say http :/:80. Basically what I just did was I told the web host builder, or I told the web host listener, or the Kestrel, which is the web server, to bind itself to all the adapters that are there, and then specifically listen for the port 80. So if there is any request coming on 80, I want this server to respond to that. So my web application is running locally at 5000, but it's listening for the port 80. Any requests that are coming in for port 80, listening for that, and then binding to all the adapters. And once there is a request, it's going to start serving from this particular port. So now let me write this out, and it's Control O, and then I'm going to say this and Control X. Now what I can do is I'll pretty much go and then say .NET run, and the web application will come up. It is still running now it's listening for on http :/:80. So what I can do now is come back to my browser, and then I can say my IP of the Droplet 139.59.62.32. So now we will see the ASP.NET MVC Core application coming up. There we go. So we have the ASP.NET MVC Core coming up. So this is the typical MVC app we all know of. It's blazingly fast, I don't know. So as you can see, contact, about, home, this is the web application. So this was a brief video on how to create a droplet in DigitalOcean, set up ASP.NET Core, and then run ASP.NET Core apps on your droplets. Of course, in a real-world production scenario, you will not have your application listen to port 80. You will do a reverse proxy by using something like an Nginx or Apache or IIS if you are on a Windows box. So probably you got an idea as to how easy it is to create an ASP.NET Core applications, run it on DigitalOcean Droplet.